Hey folks, welcome back to the Portable Gamer, welcome back to American Truck Simulator, and welcome back to, once again, somewhere between Ely, Nevada, and San Simon, Arizona. And where'd we come from? We came from way up here. Yeah, we came from Ely. So we're about, I don't know, 2/3 of the way there. Yeah, because Las Vegas, somewhere in here, Kingman would be about 1/3. This is the rest of the way. I assume we can finish in one trip. You know what? Let's go ahead and finish in one trip either way. How about that? Just so we don't drag this out to 4 episodes. 4? That's crazy talk. It is. We'll get her started. How far do we have to go? 476 miles. 8 hours translates to about 30 minutes. So that'll work out. And we'll hop in cab. We do have a little GPS on the dash. Get the wipers going. We've got plenty of fuel. We do. We've got plenty of sleep. Do we not? We do. Okay. So I think we're good to go. Set that back to map. Turn that off. And how do we get out of here? That wasn't not very smart of me. I just pulled directly in off the highway, and now we got to back up into traffic. Maybe. Yeah, this was not very good truck driverly of me. But we'll make it work. We'll make it happen. You know what I could do? We'll have to mount the curb. But it's probably smarter and safer to just pull around this way. Yep. Yeah, this is a better option. So very carefully get this pulled around. And then from here, where are we going to go? Looks like to the left. I'm going to bring up the map just for a second. Yeah, it wants us to go to the right and then around the traffic circle. I mean, I'll trust it. So let's see what we got here. Wow, a lot of traffic. Okay. And it could be that's why, maybe? I don't know. How smart is the GPS? You think it wants us to hit the traffic circle just because it's safer than taking a left out of here? Hard to say. Wow, a lot of traffic. All right. Here's our big break. Here we go. Right on. Back on the road. So finally, there's some gaming news to report. There's some things afoot. I just saw Dirt Rally 2 will release in March, I think, is the date for that. And I'm curious, let me get these wipers turned off. I'm curious, as always, if I'll be able to play it. That's like that's an interesting, okay. I've never seen a two-way traffic circle. I think I still have not, you know what I mean. I don't think such a thing exists. A little error in the signage there. Yeah, so Dirt Rally 2, and I don't know. First off, I don't know if I'll be able to play it. And secondly, I've gotten to a place with racing games where, interesting. I think racing games of all sims is where you're sort of chasing the dragon. You know, I feel like, from one perspective, iRacing is, I don't know if I want to say as good as it gets. It's probably as realistic. The physics are as realistic and as accurate as anything. Race Room, I find to be very accurate. R Factor, I find to be very accurate. And then it starts to trend down a little bit when you get into Assetto Corsa, and then you step down again to Project Cars 2. I think a set of course of competition, the graphics and the physics and the realism and immersion is all going to sort of come together. But that's not done yet. Although there was a new release, I need to actually check it out because I've been in other games for most of January, but they've been dropping the releases about the 15th of every month for the early access roadmap. So I need to check that out. But I guess what I'm saying is, I feel like of all games, of all types of games, of all types of sims, I feel like racing is the one where there's like the least room for almost innovation, I guess, if that makes sense, because you're making something that's real. Racing is real. So I think you can continue to improve the graphics and the immersion, but I feel like iRacing has the physics and the realism of driving a race car just about as realistic as it can get. Now you say that, but you can say that about graphics as well. You can look at something super photorealistic and say, wow, it's never going to be better than that. But we know it will be. We know it will be. So, whew. So, I guess what I'm saying is I don't know that you really get a lot of new when you get a racing game. I think you may get slightly better, but I don't know that there can ever really be anything kind of groundbreaking in a racing sim. I think that made sense. Maybe it did. And my machine runs Dirt 4 and Dirt Rally 1 now, I guess we'll call it. Just fine. I have to turn down some of the graphic settings, but everything runs really, really good. And something that I've noticed about racing games and these tactical shooters that I've been in the past month or so, you really can't give up frame rate. And in other games, in other sims, I think you don't want to give up frame rate. But I think anything that requires those like lightning responses, you really can't have any frame lag and you can't have any controller lag. So I don't know if I would get Dirt Rally 2 with the machine that I have right now. If I'm sort of pushing it to play Dirt Rally, and that came out 2-3 years ago. You see what I'm saying? So I think I may hold off on that. Now, what's funny is I have like the three, what I would think of as the three biggest rally games, which are Dirt 4, Dirt Rally, and WRC 7, which is the most recent one. And WRC 7, which is like the official licensed one by World Rally, is, I guess, almost the most cartoony and the least accurate physics and driving of the three of them. It does have a lot of rallies. It's got probably 12 or 15 rallies, whereas Dirt 4 and Dirt Rally both have, like, I want to say 6, maybe 7, but they don't have the full calendar. And there's some overlap. So there's probably like 3 or 4 shared rallies between those two, and then each of them has some unique ones. But it's interesting to me that the officially licensed product is the... Oh, let me turn this off. Completely forgot we're running without that. Just forgot to turn it off. So yeah, you get what I'm saying? And I wonder if they didn't do that intentionally to keep it accessible, right? Because they're trying to advance the brand. Like Dirt 4, Dirt Rally, they don't care about WRC. That's not their brand. But something like F1 2018, the Codemasters, they really do care about advancing the brand, because that game is so heavily controlled or produced almost by FIA. So I feel like FIA really has a kind of a heavy hand in that, in terms of what it's going to do for the Formula One brand, to the point where I know what I've heard, what I've read is they actually worked with Codemasters on the and we're taking a left here. Okay. They actually worked with Codemasters on the process and the mechanics of a crash, and they were very specific FIA was very specific that there would be nothing gruesome or really dangerous, no matter how badly you crash the car. It's always sort of okay. You know, your crew chief is immediately talking to you, tell me you're all right, that sort of thing. But it's never, no matter how fast you're going when you crash the car, you never crash in a way that if you saw it on TV, you'd think, oh shit, I hope that guy didn't die. And I think FIA, well, I know FIA wanted that because they didn't want to, you know, they're trying to get away from the bad old days of the 60s and 70s, and then the sort of bad days of the 90s, right? Imola, bad weekend. I know it was, you know, 20 plus years ago, but that was a crazy weekend. So what I'm saying is WRC, like the actual World Rally folks, I believe had some influence on the WRC 7 game, but I don't think they had a lot of influence on Dirt 4 and Dirt Rally. So maybe those games didn't need to be as accessible and as playable and as cartoony. Does that make sense? I think that makes sense. So the takeaway from all that, geez, I talk a lot, but the takeaway from all that, I guess what I'm saying is, I don't know if I could play Dirt Rally 2, and I don't know really if there's going to be anything super innovative to make it worth whatever it's going to be, 60, 70 bucks. In the same way that Ride 3 is good, I really like it, but it's not significantly different than Ride 2. I mean, the physics and the handling are a little bit different, and there's some new bikes, and there's some different ways you can, like, decorate your character. Let me slow down a little bit here. But it's not, you know what I mean? And in the same way that I think FS19 could have been released as a patch, you know, graphics update and maybe a new gameplay model and various, you know, deedly-deet. But, you know, that's not the farm sim model. The farm sim model is to release a new game every 2 years. And it was just time, you know, for the new one. But I don't know. Games are tough, man. Games are tough. And I know, I say this all the time, all these companies have to make money. You know, they really do. It's not, it's a business. And some of these companies, particularly when they've been acquired by larger developers, larger studios, or when they're working in with a bigger publisher, you know, I've been in business, as they say. I've been in software startups, and you don't always run your own company. Sometimes your investors do, or if you're publicly traded, then your shareholders do. You don't always get to do what you want to do. I mean, nobody does. No business does. But you gotta pay their rent, yo. You gotta pay the payroll. You gotta keep good staff. If you don't pay your people good money, you don't pay them on time, they'll bounce. They'll go somewhere else. So it's all business. It really is. And I mean, I saw a thread about. I was looking something up about. It might have been The Division. I don't know, because I've been checking a lot of stuff and looking a lot of stuff up, trying to figure out how to solve that game, which I guess I did. I mean, I maxed out. I have several characters maxed out. Can't be any higher or more powerful, whatever. So I guess I figured it out. But reading about that game, there was some chatter a few years ago when it was released, 2016 now, almost 3 years ago exactly, about, you know, that it was going to be like 60 gig or something, or Ghost Recon Wildlands. I don't know, one of those two games that I've been playing. But there was some talk that it was going to be 60 gig, and that's too big. You know, that's too big a download. Now, admittedly, several years ago, a couple of years ago, in the case of Ghost Recon, internet was slightly slower. I mean, internet is getting faster and faster every year. I'm in a new Airbnb as of yesterday afternoon, and we're 15 up pipe, 15 down pipe. I just uploaded a 10 gig video, Dolnos Laskowitz, and it took about an hour and a half. So, you know what I mean? So I don't know. I mean, that's a pretty fast connection. I'm not in a huge city, but I'm in a decent sized city. I know there's some fiber optic. So, you know, internet's picking up speed, but the point was, you know, 60 gig, God, that's a long download. And on the one hand, I think, man, you're going to play this game for weeks or months or years. What the hell's the difference if you have to, if it takes 10 hours or 12 hours or 2 hours or whatever to download? It's not like it's going to take a week to download it. Even if it did, that's, what are you going to do? But then the pushback was, they said there weren't going to be any big games after GTA 5 because GTA 5 was 50 gig, I think. Was it not? Oh, the good old days. Red Dead Redemption 2 was 100 gig. But people said after GTA 5, now they'll never make a game that big again. You'd be crazy to make a game over 50 gig download. And then GTA 5 made what, like $6.5 billion? Billion with a B. Most profitable entertainment franchise, single unit ever. I think Harry Potter has done better, and maybe Star Wars. But like GTA 5 made more than all the Fast and Furious movies combined. Like it is for a single unit, it is the most profitable entertainment product in the history of civilization, right? It's crazy. So to look at that and say, oh, that was 50 gig, don't ever make a 50 gig game again. I think more people looked at it and said, 6.5 billion, I'll make 50 gig games all day. If that's what people want, if that's what will help you sell, 10 million copies of that game got sold? If that's what's going to make that kind of money, 100 million copies. If that's what's going to make that kind of money, of course I'll make a 50 gig game or whatever. So it's interesting to see the way things evolve and how things change. So we'll see. And there was something else, the Division 2, but that may or may not be of interest to you. I think that was just like, it was almost like having an affair, I think is the best way to describe January and playing the Division. I've been into sim gaming since I got back into gaming several years ago, and I've just been all about sim gaming, and I feel like I just needed, you know what I'm saying? I needed just a little, and I did. I had a little side, a little strange, as they say, and it was fun. But I have to say, the way the gear system is set up in RPGs, and even to some extent in Ghost Recon Wildlands, which is much more it's less linear than something like Medal of Honor or Call of Duty. It's more open world, but it's definitely not RPG style. There are collectibles, there are lootables, but they're very linear. There's nothing random about it. Certain provinces have certain weapon caches, certain provinces have certain accessory caches, and you just go through the map, and as you clear each province, you loot those crates. They don't change, they don't move, they don't rotate. You loot those crates and you get that gear. So you're never opening a crate and wondering what you're going to find inside it, and are you going to get that suppressor or that extended magazine that you wanted. It tells you as soon as you start discovering the province, you can gain intel, and it tells you what's in the crates and where they're located. So there's none of the randomness of an RPG, but it also doesn't have the linearity of something like Battlefield, where you just go from this place to the next place to the next place, and it's always very clear what you do next. In Ghost Recon, you can sort of do what you want. It's a little bit more interpretive, but not as freeform, like I said, as an RPG. So it was nice, it was fun, but I feel like both of them have more of a cap, have more of like an upper limit than something like, oh dear, oh, this is that thing. This is that new thing in 1.33 on the ATS side where the roads can be completely closed. Now, what we did once before, okay, so, now, when we got jammed up a couple trips back, the road was closed. It was just like this. It was at an interchange. The road was closed. We were forced up the ramp. But then when we got to the top of the ramp, the on-ramp on the other side where we're heading down right now, that was closed as well, like we weren't supposed to get back on the highway. This one is open, so I'm going to get back on here. Do you remember that? Yeah, it was a few episodes ago. The highway was closed, we were forced up the ramp, and it was, I didn't understand at the time that we were supposed to take a detour because we snuck around back onto the freeway, and then maybe 40 or 50 game miles later, the road was blocked. But this seems like it's open again, so I'm going to risk it. That same thing could happen again. We'll see. We'll see when we get down here. So, and what else? Washington is going to be the next state for ATS. Curious how that goes. At that rate, it will take many years to have the whole country, which has to be a goal. It's got to be. It really does. Now, I also got to thinking, if I was SCS, you know what I would be doing? Right now, I would be working on Texas. I would be working on the Northeast Corridor, Mid-Atlantic. I would be working on New England. I would be working on the Midwest, Chicago, and down through Illinois and into like the Central Plains states. I would be working on all of that, because if they are doing their development one at a time, like if all the resources are focused on Washington right now, then when Washington is done, they got to start on wherever's next, Texas, or could be British Columbia. We could go into Canada, right? But I feel like there are regions that are going to take more work than others. Like Washington, it sounds kind of shitty to say, but Washington is a lot like Oregon. You'll need to build the specific features for the cities, right? For Seattle and Spokane. And I guess there's probably some other cities up around that way. But yeah, I guess there are. As I'm thinking now, I was thinking how many cities there are in the Oregon DLC. When I think about Oregon in real life, I think about Portland and Eugene and Bend, but I don't think about some of those smaller cities. So there's probably 20 cities in the Oregon DLC. So there's no reason why there wouldn't be 20 cities in Washington DLC as well. I was thinking Seattle, obviously, Spokane. And then I just sort of capped it there because those are really the only cities in Washington that not that I'm familiar with, but that I'm sort of into, I guess. But there's plenty of cities. So I guess what I was getting at was, Washington, piece of cake, you just need to knock out a couple cities, and then the terrain is almost identical to Oregon. Good to go. And to some extent that's true. I think compared to something like Texas, Washington is smaller and more simple, or compared to something like New England, right? Like if you had to do from, what would New England be? Well, really from like Long Island all the way up to Maine, and again, there's not a ton of cities, and geographically it's not massive, but it is kind of an undertaking, or at least I would think it would be, or down the coast from Long Island down to probably Richmond, Virginia, would be, I would say, the cutoff for the Mid-Atlantic. And there's a lot of towns, a lot of big cities in there. And then as you get into the Midwest, same thing. So I guess what I'm saying is the bigger projects, I would have crews working on them now so that you can release on a regular basis. So let's say a small or less complex DLC like Washington takes 90 days to develop, and something like Texas is going to take a year to develop. You see what I mean? So you would have 3 other crews working on 3 other smaller projects while you're working on Texas, so things can continue to drop every 3 months or 4 times per year or whatever. Yeah, you get what I'm saying. So, but that's next. I have not seen anything for Train Sim World, not at the moment, but hopefully we'll see something soon. And I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be Steam. I don't know if it's going to be Japan. I don't know if it's going to be France. At the moment, there's no bullet train. So we'll see. Curious about that as well. But things are picking up a little bit. I knew January would be slow, and sure enough, last week of January is when the announcements started coming in. So That's where we're at. I still have not updated my machine. I was close. I was close many times in December. I'm close now. I know exactly what I want to do. I want to get that Omen accelerator. Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh. I want to get that Omen accelerator, and I want to put, it comes with a power source, and it's enough power source to run a GTX 1080, but not a 1080 Ti. You say Ti, you say Ti. Oh shit. Okay. Sorry, FedEx. This is pretty awful. Yep. Oh. Huh. All right. That is always the worst when I do that. Hate it. Oh, but we're there. We're in St. Simon. Okay. All right. Well, perfect time. We're at 26 minutes. Holy smokes, that's like 30 minutes. All right. I'm a little rattled right now, I have to say, to do that right at the end of the video. But yeah, it comes with a power source, and it's powerful enough to run a 1080. So I think, oh no, where we're going? Oh, we're probably going to this fuel stop right here. Yeah, that would make sense. Yep, and I think I see the marker over behind there. Yep. Now, we're pulling in that way, we're pulling in that way. Looks like pulling in that way. So let's get this turnaround. So what I'll probably do is upgrade the power source, but it's weird. It's one of the smaller profile ones. It's like the little stubby power source, and I found a couple that are like 800 watts in that small package and are capable of running the 1080 or the 1080 Ti. So upgrade the power source, and then we'll also take a hard drive. But I don't know how I feel about that, because I feel like then my storage is all, you know what I mean? My storage is all like cattywampus, because I've got an M2 and an SSD in my laptop. And then I would be adding, oh, and I also have a remote SSD that I use as a backup, and I keep a couple games that I don't play very often on there. Although the load times really aren't that bad at all, not significantly different. So I don't know how I feel about having games in a fourth location. That just seems a little wonky. But at any rate, that is definitely still something I'm very much interested in. I just haven't done it yet, and I need to. Now, if I do that, let's get unloaded here. If I do that, then it does open up the possibility of getting something like Dirt Rally 2. Well, I still got excellent. I guess I took trailer damage, but no cargo damage. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, how do we do? 61 grand, and that's like a third of our points that we need to level up, so that's not bad. That's not bad. I still feel bad I hit the FedEx truck, but I'm glad we didn't take any damage. Folks, thanks for stopping back to check out The Portable Gamer. Thanks for joining us for another episode of American Truck Simulator. And we'll see you next time. Take care now.